It's amazing how much you find out about yourself when you actually take the time to go and do the work that you need to do and actually analyze yourself. And it might be a funny place to start, but I've had some huge revelations, and I know I was doing this quite consistently and found myself in a really good place when I was making these consistently because I felt like I was giving value to the world. I've had some deeper realizations and learnings about what I believe and shown up to me as ADHD and the patterns that it's gone through. So in this video, I wanted to share a little bit about it because it might help you in some of the struggles that you might be facing if you feel any similarities or any of these areas show up in your life. So a couple of the things that I've noticed since going into this world of ADHD and what it all means. I'm one of these people where I've got tons of energy to push out and use. When I'm around people, I find myself like just on fire. I just want to like do stuff and solve problems and so on. Being sat in a room like this with no one really like communicating, very alone, I find it quite difficult to keep my concentration levels high and keep focused. And when I was at the height of my photography business, I was always busy and I absolutely loved it. Didn't really give me any time to think. I just had to get on with everything. And then since the struggles that I've gone through, I've actually learned so much about the way I process things. And obviously now having the time to think where the business slowed down and having the time to process and actually see where my flaws are, it's allowed me to see just how messy your brain can get when you haven't got a good environment to be in, when you're not living up to your full potential, and also when you hyperfixate on problems and you don't necessarily realize you're doing it. So they're three areas that I've really found struggles with. Now, one of the paths that I've found is like I find patterns in things, so I can see the inconsistencies with stuff. But stupidly, I've never really stopped to look at why I do things. Not to say that I didn't think I had problems. I guess I never thought I was causing any problems. I was just always looking for the solution. But in saying that, I needed to work out what the problem was. And this is where so many things have opened up to me. Now, it's silly things like I got a bit addicted to energy drinks because I was getting a quick dopamine fix. I used to be terrible with things like porn and stuff. Like I could just open up and I was getting that connection, that fix that I needed. And that stemmed from years of being away from home and alone. And yeah, I won't go too far into that. Environment, who you're around, the conversations you have, the mindset of those people, like is enormous. Like that environment and those things that you do, the things that are happening every day, the little acts that you realise you're doing, I built into myself a good system of going to the gym regularly, and ever since lockdown, I've been pretty consistent with it. Might have had like a month or here or there, but I don't even think that. I've been going a lot, pushing myself, still growing. But having this time to think and process things and see where my struggles come from has allowed me to then work out, well, why is that happening? So I'm going to give you a little example of this. Last Friday the 13th, I was having a really good morning. I woke up, I was in a better headspace. On my way to the gym, I put some music on. I just generally, like, it was 4:30 in the morning. I was like singing along. I was like almost like dancing in my car. I felt brilliant. Got to the gym, had a good training session with my friend. And then as I stepped away from that, I got into my office and I was like, everything was in a really good place. Now, admittedly, I'd already had an energy drink first thing in the morning. And I'm already, telling my brain that I need more energy because, yeah, I'm tired and probably wasn't allowing myself to realise what I was going through. And so I had a quite productive morning. Everything felt in quite a good place. Then 1:00 came and literally my energy just went, phoom, like out of nowhere, just stopped. And I was sat here and I tried going for a walk. I had some food. I tried to just, do some little bits so I could try and listen to some different music. Nothing could really seem to change it. And that was when I was realising, and that's when I did a little bit of work into it, to realise that these dopamine hits that I was trying to get early on were giving me such a spike that, because naturally with ADHD, as I'm learning, if your dopamine levels are below base, that's where you're always trying to search for this thing. You're trying to get yourself to that energy. And I can access that in the right environment. I can't when I'm not in the right environment. And so I'd gone from waking up, instantly getting these dopamine hits, being in a relatively good place, and all of a sudden it just went plummeted. And I was just then like, just almost useless. And I realized then how almost like emotional I'd become, how quickly I stepped into that place of thinking and processing things and almost like overanalyzing everything. Got to the evening, I had a bit of it was my child's parents' day, so I had a bit of time with him, that was good. Finished work early that day, got home, and something just about, the rest of the afternoon just didn't go quite right. I had just some other business stuff that went on, and I got really frustrated with myself because the problems that were there were all problems I knew I could solve, and I hadn't been solving because I'd been so fixated on all of the problems from the past that I'd experienced and all of the difficulties I'd gone through. So taking that step back, and over the weekend I sat there and thought about like, what is going on here? And I did a bit of research into it, and seeing that obviously the early dopamine hits, which I thought were harmless and doing me, that weren't doing any harm, were actually causing me more harm, because I'm chasing after something that I need to get naturally, by going to the gym, by getting out and having a walk. For example, this morning, it's only Monday, I don't train in my own gym because I get bored of being here. So I parked at my gym, I walked into town to the gym that I go to, then walked back. So I've trained, I had a cold shower, no dopamine, I didn't have any of the energy drinks. And I'm now sitting here recording this, and it's not even 9 o'clock yet. So I've done 10,000 steps already. I've exercised, I've drunk probably 3 litres of water so far already, had my vitamins. And although I haven't had this massive surge of dopamine, that kind of big rush, I feel more controlled. And obviously as the day goes on, I'll see how that affects me. But because of the problems that I was going through and having the time to think about it, where the business has slowed down, when my mind was slowing down, when that dopamine crash was happening, that's when I was pushing everything into it. That's where I would then hyperfixate on all these problems. And it's really hard for someone with ADHD, as I'm finding, to get out of that, because when you can see the problem, you want to solve it, because we need solutions for things. That's the way our brain works. So if we haven't got a solution for things, we can be useless, and to everyone else, you just think, oh, get away from it, don't think about it. But for us, we can't switch off for it. It's like we can't just see past that problem. And, this could obviously show up in many areas of life. It could be in weight loss, and it could be everything. And, we'll go on to that in a second, right? But I'd hyperfixate on these problems because I could see what it was, and I needed it solved. And then, depending on the people you're around, whether they're people that want to solve problems quickly, or whether they need a bit of time, or whether they're just not in that space to do those things, that's when like your environment is everything to you. Now, before, I was flat out with business owners all the time, always wanted to grow forward. So it was always this another problem to solve, another thing to do. So I just never had the time to think about this stuff. This also then steps into the side of consistency. Now, some part of this is me going from being, obviously I'm no longer a boy, but like stepping up into that leadership role, the man who has his standards, has, his non-negotiables, and is very disciplined in them. Now, I can go through these spells of like intense, I'm dieting at the moment, and I missed a load of the check-in things that I need. Oh, not check-in, sorry. The accountability bits I need to do this week, but I still lost weight. I still trained. I still got loads of steps in, still done all my cardio, but I missed a load of bits. I've got the result, which is, you might argue, the main thing. But what I'm now getting more frustrated with is the lack of consistency inside of that. And this then links back to, how my brain's operating. When I see a list of things to do, my brain switches off to it. I was joking with a friend. I said, I could see 10 things. I could put 10 things on a list, and I'll do number 12. And it's just the way my brain works. I then see these things, like, I know I need to do all of these. Oh, shiny object over here. And it's because that's the way my brain works, and I look at these things and I think, I know I need to do all of them. And that's where some of the issues come in, because, and I've noticed it going back over time, where when I was in a really good place with things, I had my regimented system, so I had days where I did certain things. I'd have my editing on a Monday, I'd do my own content on a Tuesday, I'd do photo shoots Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday was a day off. And, other than the fact I was working a lot, it worked. I had a system, it was repeatable, it was easy. I knew what day I was doing what. Monday I was just in the office like here, and bang, I'd just get it done. Whole day editing, get it all done out of the way. That was like the whole week's worth of stuff caught up with. Whereas, and obviously ADHD, we like the pressure, we like that, we've got to get stuff done. It forces us to really take action. We can get more done in less time than a lot of other people can. So, it's a crazy thing where you can just go, shit, I've got this deadline, and you're just like, bang, I get everything done. Whereas if you don't have that deadline, that urgency, all of a sudden it spills out into everything. And I think this is, what stems into like the fitness, the consistency with work and everything, is trying to find ways to manage and realize that you are going through those dopamine crashes and spikes and so on. How to manage it better, is it with supplements? Is it with medication? Like, I haven't actually had an official test yet, so I can't get any medication. I do know certain things work really well for me. Like I have got a list of supplements, but I don't get any crazy hits off of anything. I don't get any spikes of anything. It's then being able to find that consistency and get more done, and probably end the day going, actually, I achieved something today. So being able to focus on those things and get those things done, and finding consistent methods to it, and setting higher standards and actually keeping to them, which is something that is not only an ADHD thing where, if you've got this standard, you want to achieve it, you somewhat have to keep driving your car in that direction, even if you've got passengers in the back telling you not to. You have to remember that you're the one steering the ship. You're the one turning the car. You're the one riding the bike. And those people can be behind you, but you have to listen to the voice that's driving you forward, because that's the one that's going to help you get away from those feelings. And sometimes it can be like that, and I don't necessarily have it like voices in my head, but it almost just goes blank. I can see all this stuff, and it doesn't mean anything, but it's like my brain's trying to process so many different things, and that's when I just hit the eject button. And it's not to say I run away, but it's almost like my brain leaves, and I'm just sat here like, ugh. So that, that's been a big thing for me, to realise that's what's happening, and the dopamine crashes, and where I'm getting fixes from. That's part of the problem. So obviously training early, exhausting myself early is a big thing, because if I do that, it seems to tame my mind. It allows me to push forward. Making sure I'm eating the right foods consistently, if I'm showing up, even wearing like nicer clothes. If I just wear my gym stuff and just come and sit in here, I find myself in a place where I just don't feel at that level. I don't feel like I'm showing up as that person. And then that almost like allows those patterns to slip in. So it's almost like, what would that person do? Which is part of leadership, part of, ADHD, of like steering that brain in the right direction. And as a man, it's more attractive to be around someone who's disciplined, gets the work done, shows up, and all of that. And I do get it done. It's always just in a little bit of a backwards way. And I'm now annoyed with myself for the fact that I struggle with those consistencies. And, I've had moments where I sit there and go like, wow, actually, I feel bad, if I pass this on to Dylan, if I pass it on to Lila, what it's like to be around all these people and that, I've spent time with and worked with. Not understanding myself better actually would have given everyone more. And I wish I'd spent the time to learn all of this, and actually slowing down, as much as it's been painful, it's probably been necessary. So that's two of the things in pure ADHD fashion. I've forgotten what the third one was I wanted to go into, and it's already been 13 minutes. The other side of things, I think the big thing that I've also kind of realised through this time of slowing down is that if you don't allow yourself to actually think and breathe and see how you're operating, and that doesn't mean lose yourself for days, which I've unfortunately ended up doing, and talking days over the past months and stuff, and dealing with other life issues that are always going to appear in life, so you can't avoid them. These things force you to slow down, force you to take time. And I think actually the best point I can finish on here is I've been doing a hell of a lot of personal development work, really digging in and answering really awkward questions and difficult questions, and trying to find everything I can, because if you can help yourself, you'll help everyone else. It's almost like the oxygen mask. If you help yourself first, you can help everyone else. It's so important to not be scared of the fears of all these things that you've built up in your head and, jot them down, express them, try and do something different with them. Because when you do that and you allow yourself the time to go through these things, you'll actually learn so much more about yourself, and then you can operate again. And I think what I was in a phase of, or a stage of, is that I had all these things going on and I wasn't quite sure why. And I had to go through it and almost like meticulously find out these things and see what the patterns were and see what I was doing so that I could change things. So if you are in that space where you keep finding yourself just doing these things, it's not quite feeling right, that's a really good time for you to say, hey, like, it's time to kind of stand up, do the personal development work, understand where your standards are at, what you want to do, what you're doing to replace those feelings that you're not getting from somewhere else, what's the conversations you have, what's the standards you need to set for yourself, so that then you can operate better. So there's some lessons that I've learned about ADHD and about myself, and I wanted to share it because I think these things can be valuable. If you have got to 15 minutes of this video still watching, I hope you found this useful and maybe some insights in there. Please just drop me a message. It's great to talk to people that are going through these things, and maybe I can give some other value. But if you are going through struggles and you're wondering what these things is, like I said, for me, I worried that I was broken, I wasn't right, I just kept not being able to understand why these outcomes were happening. And it's only when you spend the time to do the work on yourself and actually fix these things and maybe talk to someone or use like other methods to be able to open up about things, that is where you can really find out how you can move forward. That's where you find out the answers to the problems. So don't be scared of doing it, because actually in that deep work is where you solve the problems for yourself. You can often solve your own problems. It's just the fact that you need to be open and vulnerable enough to just go, where is this going wrong? What's happening? And then learn about it, research about it, build up your own knowledge, because you can't just want for the problems to be solved like we all would love to have them done. What we have to do is do the work to solve the problems and build the skills and the knowledge to be able to handle these things, so that then in the future, if you have problems happen, you're not sitting there going, why have I been thrown into this dogfight? You're prepared for the dogfight. You're prepared to handle these things. And then you go, hang on, this is the situation. I don't need to lose myself here. This is how I control it. And then that's how I move forward. So generally, I hope that helped. It's helped me a lot with understanding how my brain works and how I can do things better. Like I said, planning out, not necessarily planning out my days, but like making sure I do certain things in the morning, cold exposure, training, movement, a little bit of personal work, like 20 minutes, half hours, like probably more than enough. And then actually just getting to work, me doing this now, it's literally just about to click on to 9 o'clock and I've already got a video done and some content done. So generally, I hope this helps. I hope this gives you some sort of value. For me doing this now, I already feel like I've won the day, let alone anything else that happens. So find a routine and a system that works for you, that gets the best out of you. And it will help you overcome a lot of these things. It will help you grow forward. It will help you build a better version of yourself that you can maintain, hold up to. And you can tell when those standards are dropping, because you'll start feeling these other things creeping back in. And when you realize that and you've learned, wow, I do this when this happens, that's when you can eradicate the problem, move forward, and hopefully just, deal with things better. So I hope that helps. I hope you got a lot of value from that. And I look forward to sharing with you more information in the next episode.